The Harrington family legacy crumbled in just 1 week. It started with a single phone call that changed everything Margaret thought she knew about her children. By day 3, financial records revealed decades of hidden transactions. By day 5, family members were no longer speaking to each other. By day 7, the truth about who betrayed them all finally emerged. But here is what makes this story truly shocking. The betrayer was unmotivated by greed or revenge. Their reason will force you to confront the painful reality of how family loyalty and devastating secrecy can destroy the people we love most. The betrayal began with an unexpected visitor at Margaret's door.
Subscribe now and turn on notifications to never miss a story.
Margaret Harrington's hands shook as she gripped the doorframe. The woman standing before her spoke with the same measured cadence that had always marked Charles's careful business discussions. But this stranger's face carried pain that decades of secrets had carved into every line. "I'm Claire Morrison," the woman said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "Your husband was my father." She held up a worn leather briefcase that looked like it had survived countless storms. "And I have proof that someone in your family has been stealing from you for 30 years. The golden anniversary celebration Margaret had planned for that evening suddenly felt like a cruel joke. 50 years of marriage, and now this woman appeared with evidence that could destroy everything. Claire opened the briefcase on Margaret's kitchen table, revealing financial documents that told a devastating story. One bank statement showed a $50,000 transfer made during Margaret's cancer treatment 3 years ago, moved from the family trust to an unknown account while she fought for her life. "Someone with access to your family trust has been moving money for decades," Claire explained. "But I won't tell you who until you agree to my terms." Her fingers traced the edges of documents that showed the systematic bleeding of their wealth during the family's most vulnerable moments. Margaret called her 3 children immediately. The family meeting that followed split them apart like a blade through silk. Her eldest son David wanted to investigate everything, while her daughter Sarah begged them to think about the family reputation. Her youngest, Michael, accused Claire of being a con artist trying to destroy them. "She knows things only family would know," Margaret whispered to David during a heated break in the conversation. The intimate details Claire revealed about Charles's private moments convinced Margaret this woman truly was his daughter. Claire's demands surprised everyone. She didn't want money or a share of the inheritance. She wanted acknowledgement. She wanted her father's name formally recognized on her birth certificate. She wanted the family to admit that Charles Harrington had loved her mother and had supported Claire secretly for years before his death. "Your father sent me birthday cards until I turned 18, Claire revealed, her voice breaking slightly. "He paid for my college education through an anonymous scholarship fund. He loved me, but he was too afraid of losing all of you to claim me publicly." Margaret realized they faced an impossible choice: investigate and risk exposing decades of family secrets, or let the financial bleeding continue while hoping Claire would simply disappear. But Claire's determination matched Charles's business resolve. She wasn't leaving until she got answers. The investigation would have to begin, and Margaret knew exactly where to start. Claire had given them 48 hours to find answers before she would take her story public. Uncle Robert's office felt different when Margaret walked in the next morning. It's the same mahogany desk, the same family photos on the shelves, but now everything carried the weight of suspicion. Robert had managed the Harrington family finances for 3 decades. He knew which grandchild needed braces, which business venture had failed, which medical bills had stretched the family thin. The bank statement spread across his conference table told a story that made Margaret's chest tighten. When David's restaurant failed 2 years ago, $40,000 had vanished from the trust just days before an anonymous investor saved his business. The timing was too perfect to be coincidence. Someone had intimate knowledge of family emergencies before they even happened. Margaret stared at the evidence for a long moment, unable to process what it meant. Her children had always been proud, refusing help, even when they desperately needed it. The idea that someone would betray the family trust felt impossible, but as the reality sank in, she watched her children begin to eye each other with new suspicion, searching for signs of guilt in familiar faces. Sarah confronted David first. His defensive anger surprised everyone when she mentioned the anonymous payment that had saved his restaurant from bankruptcy. He swore he never knew where the money came from, but his refusal to make eye contact told a different story. Michael's wife broke down when Margaret asked about the mysterious insurance settlement that had covered her experimental treatments. The money had appeared exactly when they needed it most. Margaret's friend, Detective Harrison, agreed to help unofficially. His investigation uncovered something none of them expected. The stolen money wasn't funding lavish vacations or expensive cars. Every dollar had been redirected to family members who were drowning in debt, medical bills, or business failures. Someone had been playing guardian angel with the family fortune. The betrayer had kept detailed spreadsheets of every transaction, complete with notes about why each family member needed help. Medical records, business documents, school tuition bills. Everything was documented with the precision of someone who wanted their actions understood, even if discovered years later. Margaret stared at the evidence that pointed to one undeniable conclusion. The betrayer wasn't motivated by greed or malice. They had watched family members suffer in silence rather than ask for help from the trust that could easily afford it. They had witnessed pride destroy relationships and secrecy poison love. Now Margaret had to gather everyone together and force the truth into the open. The family gathered in the dining room, where Margaret placed the final piece of evidence on the table. Their faces carried dread and anticipation as Claire Morrison watched from the corner. Her presence a constant reminder of the secrets that had brought them to this moment. "I'm giving you one chance to confess," Margaret said, her voice barely above a whisper. "After 30 years of managing our trust, after watching our family struggle and suffer, someone in this room decided to take matters into their own hands." The confession came from the person Margaret least expected. Uncle Robert stood slowly, his weathered hands shaking as he reached for the documents. "I couldn't watch anymore," he said, his voice breaking. "I watched David lose his restaurant while millions sat untouched in accounts. I watched Michael's wife postpone cancer treatments because they couldn't afford the experimental drugs. Watched Sarah work 3 jobs to pay for her daughter's education." His eyes filled with tears as he looked at each family member. Family members were dying, losing their homes, destroying their futures. And you refused to help because they were too proud to beg. The devastating truth hit Margaret like a physical blow. Her rigid control over the family finances had created the very conditions that drove Robert to betray her trust. He had prioritized maintaining their perfect image over genuinely caring for the people she claimed to love. Her own children had suffered in silence rather than admit they needed help from a trust that could have easily saved them. Claire stepped forward, her voice steady but emotional. "I didn't come here to destroy your family. I came because Robert contacted me months ago. I felt guilty about keeping my father's secrets while watching all of you keep your own." She looked directly at Margaret. "Your secrecy and control created the same shame that forced my father to abandon me publicly while supporting me privately." Robert's meticulous records showed 30 years of watching family members struggle while help remained locked away. Every transaction represented a moment when love had to break trust because honesty had become impossible. Margaret stared at the evidence and realized something that changed everything about how she understood their situation. Their legacy was already broken long before Robert's first unauthorized transfer. The betrayal had simply forced them to see what they had been hiding from themselves. They faced a choice about whether breaking trust could actually rebuild it on honest foundations. Margaret walked to her desk and opened the family trust ledger for the first time in years. The Harrington family story shows that the most devastating betrayals come from people who love us most. Her rigid control created the conditions that drove Uncle Robert to break her trust. Actions weren't about greed, but about watching family members suffer while help remained locked away. Research shows that betrayal often coexists with love, creating the most painful wounds because they come from those we trust completely. The greatest act of courage wasn't exposing Robert, but examining why his betrayal felt necessary. When you think about your own family's financial decisions, ask yourself this: are you protecting your loved ones through control? Or are you accidentally forcing them to hide their struggles behind pride?
And that's the end of this incredible journey. Thank you for sticking with us through every twist, turn, and revelation. Your time and support mean the world to us. But the stories don't stop here. If you love thrilling, suspenseful, and captivating tales, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss the next gripping story. Got thoughts on this story? Drop a comment below. We'd love to hear what you think. Until next time, stay curious, stay intrigued, and we'll see you in the next one. Subscribe now and get ready for the next unforgettable story.